I just can't see the benefit in this. No way, no how. I don't see the benefit in it politically. I don't see the benefit in it for the country. I think our Prime Minister was led into a political trap and he pretty much fell for it. Where we are having COVID spikes. We know we are having a COVID spike currently in the nation, and a lot of people want to know what is the cause of this spike. What can we see to be the root cause behind this? And that's understandable. It's human. You want to figure out what is the cause behind this big problem we are having. As a regular person, that's fine. And obviously now, if it's part of the conversation in the regular public, if it's part of the conversation in the population, the politicians are going to try to take it up. So the opposition leader, for quite some time now, they've been accusing the Prime Minister of being partially responsible for causing the current spread of COVID, the current spike, by inviting people to Tobago. And that's been going on for some time now, but he responded to this whole thing, speaking about the opposition's part in funding the vigils that took place back in February for that truly horrific tragedy. And in the most basic sense of it, I think both sides have some fault to take, and both of their accusations to the other sides have some merit in it, and maybe encouraging people to Tobago during Easter wasn't the best idea, and maybe encouraging people into vigils in the street wasn't the best idea. But I think a lot of this, how we are supposed to think about it, is in terms of what benefit is there to the country. Okay, all of us can discuss, I can discuss, you can discuss about what we think the cause may be and whose fault it might be, and etc. But if someone is in a position to lead our country, the empty points about whose fault it is and who is to blame and what group is to blame, I don't see how that discussion from a governing side actually brings any benefit to the country. I think it just brings more division. And I think when we look through what is happening in response to all of this, we're seeing that it is causing more division. And especially at a sensitive time like we are in right now, we are in a global pandemic. And I think this is the worst possible time for us to increase our divisiveness as a country. Three of our main papers, when you look at the headline, they carried for it. You can see from the outset what was the problem in him touching this topic. Because of the sensitive and potentially sensational nature of this story, of the entire vigil and the tragedy that led up to it, I think from the time he broached that subject, from the time he brought it up, he should have known that the headlines were going to write themselves. One headline has "Blame Andrea Vigils." Now, can you imagine how that sounds? And what do you think your response would be if you are walking somewhere and you see a headline in a papers, the Prime Minister of our country is saying, "Blame Andrea Vigils." Now, the Express with this headline phrases it like if the Prime Minister is personally blaming the vigils for the young lady. But that wasn't the full essence of what he was trying to say. But again, it's on him because he said it, allowing these headlines to be written in the first place. The other headline from The Guardian says, "PM blames COVID-19 spike on candlelight prayer vigils." That's a bit closer to what he said, but still doesn't have the full essence, because his point wasn't really about the vigils in themselves. The Newsday has what I think may possibly be the most accurate of the headlines I saw here. PM, UNC promoted vigils which spread COVID-19. And I think in his way, this was the main point that he was trying to make. He was trying to make a political point against the opposition party, that it was their fault, they sponsored this event, and in their own doing, they caused some of this. But the point was misconstrued, obviously. So we're reading from the Guardian article, "PM blames COVID-19 spike on candlelight prayer vigils." If you're viewing this and not subscribed yet, this is a good time to click that subscribe button, because I have some more videos coming up and you don't want to miss them out. You can click the notification bell too if you want a little extra notification and extra promptness on when the videos will be released. Like the video too, well, if you like it. Even if you don't like it, like it still and comment, and it allows the interactions and the spread to increase on the video, allowing it to be seen by more people. Share it if you think it's something that someone would like to see. Share it if you think it's some good content. If you like the style of content and you think there should be more of it, well, share it and let some more people see it and let the audience grow. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley yesterday linked the candlelight and prayer vigils held in February for slain court worker Andrea Barrett to the spike in COVID-19 numbers. No, just from that intro alone, if I was somebody, and a lot of people were legitimately badly affected by this. It was something that did have a serious effect on the country's psyche because of the nature of how this atrocity occurred. Yes, there were some other factors in it, and yes, there may have been some racial and class and whatever factors in it, but the fact of the matter, at the end of all of it, is it did affect the country. And if I was someone in Trinidad seriously affected by this, and I read that our Prime Minister linked the candlelight and prayer vigils and they made sure and say that what these candlelight and prayer vigils were for was for the slain young lady. And he linked that to the spike in COVID numbers. And again, that doesn't sound good. During the debate on the motion on matters pertaining to the state of emergency yesterday, opposition leader Kamala Persad-Bissessar once again questioned whether the Prime Minister was responsible for the climbing COVID-19 numbers when he invited people to go to Tobago for the Easter weekend. To deal with that, the Prime Minister sought to explain that he said that the whole Tobago business wasn't 50,000 people going to Tobago, that the way how it's calculated, 25,000 people to go and 25,000 people to come would look as 50,000 people, 50,000 flights to and from Tobago. Either way, 25,000 is still a large number, and in the end, when we look back on it, it still may not have been wise. But I think in looking back, there are multiple reasons to look back. You could look back and learn some of the lessons that you want to learn from the mistakes you may have made. But there's a saying, hindsight is 2020. 2020 means perfect vision. So when I'm looking back, it's easy to have perfect vision because I already see all the problems that I faced after I made these decisions. So that's one of the problems in looking back. Anyway, continuing with what the Prime Minister actually said. They are asking for an investigation. This is quoting Dr. Rowley. They're asking for an investigation into how we got here. But careful what you ask for, because you will get it. What other country do you know of fighting COVID alongside TT that the opposition paid for or organized night after night thousands of people to do exactly what the virus wanted, which was to bring people together during a pandemic? They organized transport to bring people. Barataria Samoa MP Saddam Hussein rose to interject. These are the families of the victims who are mourning. This is imputing improper motives. Rowley retorted, you could shout as loud as you like. That happened in this country. Now, from that moment, I think if I was the Prime Minister from that moment, I would have known that the optics of this isn't going to look good. And as a politician, okay, you may wish that optics didn't matter, optics being how this is going to look to the public. You may wish that optics didn't matter and just the full fact of the moment and what is the actual objective truth in the moment matters. But the truth is that people respond to how things look. People respond more to what their emotions feel and what their eyes see and tell them than to what logic tells them is the truth about a situation. By going into the whole Andrea Barrett situation, a very sensitive topic that riled up the nation, he should have known that the response that is going to come of this isn't going to have anything to do with his original point of trying to blame the opposition for the most part. Because if you go back to the vigils had support across political lines. Now, I said this in the contemplation I did on the topic. I did not agree with the vigils really and truly. Firstly, I saw that they were politicizing this, and you could have seen the political agents moving behind the scenes. And okay, fine, political agents do what political agents do, but I saw that and it wasn't my thing. And then, if we're being honest, politics in Trinidad, as I said in my video yesterday, politics in Trinidad almost always ends up with a slight racial undertone. And it had that in that whole situation too. So the whole thing seemed a mess, and the crowds during the pandemic and all of that. It was known, but this thing still had wider appeal than just one political party. For you now to link the spike in COVID with a political party and then link both of those things with a vigil. Now, anyone that participated in the vigil, anyone who had even passing approval of the vigils and what they were appealing for, because let's be honest, what they were appealing for was safety for women and girls and safety for our country by extension, because the violence is ridiculous in our country. So it's a relatable problem, and it was a relatable issue that many people in the country did relate to and did agree with. And some people, even people within the PNM, went out to these vigils. What can be said is you could see the political mileage and why politicians like tragedies. This could sound callous, but you see the reason politicians choose to link with tragedies, because when a politician links with a tragedy now they have the shield of this tragedy. Now our opposition has the protection that they can't be criticized necessarily about some of their rules and about some of the things that they tried to do during this time, because it's a truly tragic event. And if you criticize them, it can be extrapolated, it can be extended to as a criticism of the entire thing and of the tragedy and of people during their already painful time. Obviously, that was what was going to come up. And as predicted, that is what came up. Andrea's father, it's shameless. Fallout from PM blaming COVID surge on candlelight vigils. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley is being severely criticized for blaming the candlelight vigils held for murdered 23-year-old Andrea Barrett for the COVID surge in Trinidad and Tobago. In a telephone interview with The Express yesterday, Andrea's father, Randolph Barrett, described the Prime Minister's statement as shameless and refuted Rowley's claims that the vigils were paid for and organized by the United National Congress. Barrett said he did not listen to the Prime Minister, but he has received many calls since Rowley's comments. And that was my exact point. That was the exact point I told someone when I heard of this. The thing is, the statement Rowley made, if everyone were to read word for word exactly what he said, you would see that it was a jab aimed at the opposition. It was not aimed at any family. It wasn't aimed at the vigil per se in and of itself. It was aimed at throwing something at the opposition. You see, unfortunately, there are matters of propriety, and when dealing with a large number of people, you have to understand that people are listening to what you're saying. So what you say has to be more measured, because you don't know the effect it has. Wasn't this the video that I did yesterday, speaking about rhetoric and how rhetoric from the opposition party was fueling some insane conspiracy theories online. And now we are seeing how the rhetoric from the government now has the potential of fueling a lot of division and strife within the country. Going back to Barrett's comments, the father, he said if he could, he would take legal action to ensure no one politicizes his daughter's name, but he believes in Trinidad that will be in vain. My daughter's name should not be used in politics without my permission. The fella, Rowley, is not listening to the people. And the father is right. He is right. His daughter's name should not be involved in politics. His daughter's name should, for his part, he would have much preferred that his daughter's name never came into the news for what it came into the news for. And then for it to keep going on and keep being rehashed. And that's another part of what can be unfair about what the Prime Minister did, in that he is exposing people who are innocent of the political machinations going on behind the scenes. They weren't necessarily involved in the planning, and they weren't necessarily aiming to get people to sponsor events. Politicians are going to politician. Politicians do what politicians do. And for you now to claim that the entire event is tainted for this is opening up yourself for some deserved and real licks. And here's the thing. There may be some truth to it, but no one actually knows. It isn't something confirmed. If this was a confirmed case where we can say for sure, where the Prime Minister can come out with substantiated records and show, well, if you look at the records, you would see that the reason that this is happening is because of X cases, and we can see the surges in these locations here, and we see it's responsible because this happened, and we follow this trail, and the contact tracing is leading back to the source. If that could have actually been said, and the evidence was there to be shown, then maybe what the Prime Minister said would have had some more credence to it. But still, in his position, I think it would still not have had any value for him to bring it up. You see, in the position he is in as a leader, unfortunately, sometimes you just have to take the licks as it comes. Other people have the freedom of being able to say things at you that you cannot respond to in like manner. That's unfortunate, but that's the position that you took. That's the job that you took. If you didn't think that you were capable of taking a job where you are forced to listen to naysayers and critics and not be able to respond to them in like manner, then positions of leadership, especially of governmental leadership, just wouldn't be cut out for you. But all of that was supposing that there was some actual evidence that he could have actually presented to back up the claim that these vigils were clearly the super spreader events that caused the spikes. But I don't think there's any evidence of it. The latest article that I saw coming out from The Guardian, what caused TNT's latest COVID-19 surge. They sought to see if they can come to some kind of conclusion as to what would have been the underlying causes behind this COVID-19 surge that Trinidad is seeing. What was the cause of the current surge in COVID-19 cases and deaths? Until Monday afternoon, the public and epidemiologists alike were on the same page: travel and congregation during Easter. However, during the state of emergency debate in Parliament, the Prime Minister linked the current surge in COVID-19 numbers to candlelight and prayer vigils held in early February for murdered court clerk. What does the data show tracking the spikes? Since the start of phase 2 of COVID-19, Trinidad has experienced several spikes that health officials acknowledged. In 2020, there was the post-2020 general election increase in cases connected to the number of rallies and lack of mask wearing. Cases surged through October, with another spike in November due to a prison COVID-19 outbreak. The subsequent surge in cases followed Christmas and New Year's events, where medical officials attributed the surge to house gatherings and parties. These cases were clustered and numbers declined into February. So, is there any proof to link the vigils with the spikes? Let's go into February and check the February cases. According to the World Health Organization, the incubation period of COVID-19, meaning the time from exposure to first symptoms, can be anywhere from 2 to 14 days, with the last highest turnout vigil occurring on February 14th. Cases theoretically should have climbed between February 14th through February 28th. Based on the epidemic curve, the 7-day rolling average was at its lowest for 2021 during February, with average daily cases between 3 and 4 cases. Some days of February recorded 0 cases for the day. They're going to chart the part of the pandemic during the time from February to now, where we noticed the next spike coming in somewhere around March, and the CMO warned about it. They spoke about the spikes right before Easter, about the spikes after Easter, and that the CMO and the health officials, some of them did actually attribute some of the spread to the Easter festivities and more freedom that occurred during the Easter time. So some of the spikes were attributed today. All right, so from this, no clear evidence can be linked between the main vigils, the vigils with the highest turnout, and any obvious spike in numbers. Now, that doesn't necessarily negate any impact that the vigils may have had, because there may have been some spread, some community spread occurring during the vigils that may have taken some time to spread on to some people who would have been more severely affected, and then you'd eventually see the deaths and hospitalizations in the severely affected community, because very likely it would be the younger people in the vigils. Okay, so there's still a possibility that the vigils may have had some effect, but as of a simple cause and effect, the vigils cause this main effect, it cannot really be so. The time frame doesn't even line up, and because of that, when you add the lack of evidence to this statement and to the fact that the statement doesn't seem to have any potential benefit to the country, it doesn't seem to have any potential benefit to him. I'm not sure who the benefit was, why he would say such a statement if it was just being caught in the moment. But when you see the lack of evidence added to that, it throws even further light and further negative light on the statement. And you understand in some realm why sometimes the Prime Minister or Prime Minister comes under criticism for his hasty to speak nature on certain topics, and for his need sometimes to have a rebuttal to everything. Unfortunately, you are not allowed that luxury. And in this case, I don't think the rebuttal even had good credibility behind it. What do you think? Tell me in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next video.
When you wake up in the morning and you hear the birds cry.